I never thought I'd be the person calling the police on my own parents while my 12-year-old daughter sobbed in the background. But when they walked out of my house with a $30,000 instrument that didn't belong to them, they stopped being family and started being thieves. They actually looked me in the eye and told me that family shares, and that my brother's prodigy son deserved it more than my daughter did because he has real potential. I'm sitting here now with a legal mountain in front of me and my mother screaming that I'm ruining the family legacy. But I need to know, was I wrong for bringing the law into this? Or would you have let them strip your child of her future just to keep the peace? To understand how we got to this point, you have to understand the dynamic of the Miller family. I'm the middle child, the one who always just got by according to my parents, whereas my older brother, Stephen, has always been the golden boy. Everything Stephen did was celebrated, and everything I did was an afterthought. When I got a scholarship to university, it was nice. But when Stephen got a middle management job at a local firm, it was a monumental achievement. This favoritism extended to our children. My daughter, Maya, is a quiet, brilliant girl who discovered a passion for the cello when she was 7. She isn't just good, she's transcendent. She spends hours practicing, her fingers calloused and her mind completely lost in the music. My nephew, Leo, is also musical, but in the way a bored kid is musical. He likes the idea of being a star, but he hates the work. My parents, however, are convinced Leo is the next Yo-Yo Ma, and that Maya is just playing a hobby. The centerpiece of this entire conflict is the cello itself. It isn't just any instrument. It belonged to my great-grandmother, Alina, who was a professional cellist in Europe before moving here. It's a 19th-century masterpiece with a tone that sounds like honey and heartbreak. Alina and I were always close. She saw how hard I worked and how much I loved my daughter, and before she passed away 3 years ago, she made it very clear that the cello was to go to Maya. She didn't put it in a standard will that my parents could easily contest. She put it in a very specific, ironclad trust handled by a lawyer my parents had never met. My parents were furious when she died. They expected her entire estate to be funneled through them so they could distribute it fairly, which we all know meant giving everything to Stephen. When they found out the cello went directly to Maya, they were livid. They claimed Alina was not of sound mind, and that a young girl couldn't possibly appreciate such a valuable heirloom. For 3 years, they've been dropping hints, then suggestions, then demands that Maya lend the cello to Leo for his competitions. I always said no. Maya loves that cello. It's her connection to her great-grandmother. Last week, things reached a breaking point. My parents offered to host a family dinner, and in a moment of weakness, I agreed. I thought maybe we could have one night without the tension. We were all in the dining room when my mother mentioned that Leo had a big audition coming up for a prestigious youth orchestra. She sighed dramatically and said it was such a shame he didn't have an inspiring instrument to play on, and how much better he would perform if he had Alina's cello. I told her for the 100th time that the cello is Maya's, and she has her own regional solo coming up. My father slammed his hand on the table and told me I was being selfish, that Maya was stunting her cousin's growth out of spite. I didn't want to argue in front of the kids, so I gathered our things to leave. While I was in the hallway getting our coats, I didn't notice that my mother had slipped into the den where Maya keeps her case. By the time we got to the car, Maya realized her bag felt light. We opened the case, and it was empty. My parents had already driven off. I called them immediately, and my mother answered with a smug tone, saying they were just borrowing it for Leo's practice, and they'd bring it back when they felt Maya had learned the value of sharing. I was shaking with rage. I drove straight to their house, but they had locked the doors and refused to come out. My brother Stephen messaged me saying I was overreacting, and that it's just a wooden box. He told me to stop being a bitter sibling and let his son have a win for once. That's when it hit me. They truly believe that because they are the heads of the family, they have the right to redistribute property as they see fit, regardless of the law or Maya's feelings. I spent the night consoling a devastated 12-year-old who felt like her world had been stolen. I realized that if I didn't act now, I would be teaching her that family is allowed to abuse you as long as they share your blood. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. My parents had stolen a priceless heirloom from their own granddaughter to give to their favorite child's son, and they were hiding behind the family excuse to get away with it. Before I tell you what happened next and how the trust lawyer turned their world upside down, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have called the police on your own parents, or would you have tried to handle it within the family, even if it meant losing the instrument? The next morning, I didn't call my parents again. I didn't text Stephen. I called Mr. Henderson, the trust lawyer great-grandmother Alina had appointed. When I told him what happened, the line went silent for a moment. Then, in a very calm, very cold voice, he said, "That instrument is property of the Alina Miller Trust, held for the benefit of Maya. Taking it is not a family dispute. It is grand larceny and a violation of the trust's terms." He told me to meet him at my parents' house in 1 hour and to bring the police to file an official report. When I arrived, my parents were out on the porch, looking triumphant. They had the cello out on a stand, and Leo was clumsily drawing a bow across the strings that are incredibly delicate. Maya gasped when she saw how he was handling it. When the police cruiser pulled up behind my car, my mother's face went from smug to ghostly pale. She started screaming that I was insane and that she was going to disown me. Mr. Henderson stepped out of his car, carrying a thick leather briefcase. He didn't even look at my parents. He walked straight to the police officer and handed him a set of documents. He explained that the cello was valued at $32,000 and was legally protected under a trust. He informed my parents that they had 60 seconds to hand over the instrument, or they would be arrested for felony theft on the spot. My father tried to bluster, saying he was the patriarch and that the trust was elder abuse against him, but the officer wasn't having it. The officer told him, "Sir, the paperwork says the girl owns the cello. You took it without permission. Give it back or get in the car." The scene was chaotic. My mother was weeping, calling me an ungrateful daughter, and Stephen arrived just in time to start recording the police, shouting about family rights. But Mr. Henderson wasn't finished. Once we had the cello safely back in its case and in my car, he turned to my parents and Stephen. He informed them that great-grandmother Alina had anticipated this. There was a no contest and harassment clause in the residual trust that provided my parents with a monthly stipend for their retirement. Because they had attempted to misappropriated trust assets, the cello, they were now in breach of the trust's conduct requirements. He told them that he would be filing an immediate injunction to freeze their monthly payments and that they would be required to pay for a professional appraisal and any necessary repairs to the cello out of their own pockets. The aftermath has been a total scorched earth scenario. My parents' retirement income is now tied up in a legal battle they are guaranteed to lose. Stephen is furious because he was counting on that money to help him with his own debts, and now he's being forced to actually support our parents. My extended family is split down the middle. Some say I'm a hero for standing up for my daughter, while others say I should have just let Leo use the cello for a week to avoid ruining my parents' lives. But here's the thing. Maya played her solo yesterday. She played with a strength and a beauty I've never seen before, and she did it on the instrument her great-grandmother specifically wanted her to have. When she finished, she looked at me and whispered, "Thank you for not letting them take it." That moment was worth every nasty text and every cold shoulder from my family. I realized that being family doesn't give you a license to be a thief or a bully. My parents chose a favorite child and a favorite grandchild over the law and over common decency. They thought they could steamroll me because I'd always been the quiet one, but they forgot that a mother will do anything to protect her child's future. They lost their dignity, their retirement security, and their relationship with their granddaughter, all because they couldn't stand to see Maya succeed on her own merits. The moral of this story is that blood might be thicker than water, but it isn't thicker than justice or respect. If you don't stand up to bullies within your own family, you're just teaching the next generation that it's okay to be a victim. I don't regret calling the police, and I don't regret letting the lawyer do his job. My daughter knows I have her back, and that's the only legacy I care about. Like this video if you were on my side and think I did the right thing by protecting Maya's inheritance. Subscribe for more stories like this where the golden child family finally gets what's coming to them. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Would you have gone as far as freezing their retirement, or is that too much? I'll see you all in the next story.